Welcome, everybody, to Human Reaction. I'm David Rand here with Kyle Mack, Joe Sheehan, and Bennett on the buttons. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, David. How are you? You're sounding very sultry.
Celebrating International Men's Day.
I'm being told it's our day. This is a cause for celebration.
To celebrate, David got a voice transplant to sound even more manly.
Yeah, right.
If you want to celebrate with us, you can hit the like button on this video.
Oh, nice.
Good? Yeah?
No, hitting the like button is not
Punch
manly.
It like a man
You got to
would.
knock the like button the fuck out.
Yeah, smash it.
Yes. Or in David's case, I don't know, wrestle it to the ground, put it in full guard, and maybe, take the back and, rear naked choke. I don't know.
Why does it sound so gay when you say it?
Because it is.
Actually, on YouTube, there's apparently a new hype feature. I don't know what it is.
Gay!
But do it.
Hype us up.
Help us understand what the hype feature is.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is, but it's apparently a thing.
Well,
So press it or hype it.
I don't know what you're talking about, but 2,100 subscribers. That quick. We go by 2,100 in a week. So, yeah, keep hyping us up, guys. Appreciate it.
Press
Hell
the
yeah.
button.
Hell yeah.
Or just comment and tell us that we're dumb.
Yeah.
That also is helpful.
It's
to be
also fun.
honest.
Yeah.
Certainly helpful. Oh, you know what? Actually, we didn't do this last episode. We need to read some comments. We need to read some comments. I'm gonna do that right now. You guys can kind of intro the topic, but before we get into it, we're gonna read some comments from our Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by Revved Up Promo, the official apparel partner of Human Reaction. Revved Up is a premier full-service shop specializing in laser engraving, screen printing, and embroidery. Not only are they now making all of our apparel right down the road from us, they can do the same for your brand and ship it to you anywhere in the world. Revved Up helps you navigate the extensive universe of merch options and uses state-of-the-art techniques to showcase your brand in its very best light. So if you want to support our show and our generous sponsor, you can now do so by buying our merch and by turning to Revved Up Promo for your own custom apparel needs. Reach them at revveduppromo.com. That's with 2 V's and 2 P's, or just check the show notes for a link.
All right. Well, we're talking about Nick Fuentes again because our Discord
really wants
to talk about Nick Fuentes. So
I think everybody does, don't they?
It is. It's crazy. I mean, everyone just can't get enough of this guy.
What if that's the psyop?
Yeah, what if he's a Fed?
No, you're a Fed.
I think we
No,
already,
you're a Fed.
I think we already cleared this up.
I think we just did the Spider-Man meme.
Everyone and no one's a Fed at the same time.
Ooh.
That's how it is.
Everybody is an asset, but nobody's an agent.
Yeah.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Wise words.
It's kind of like a woman or always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Everyone's always an asset, not an agent.
Well, it's kind of the useful idiot thing. If everybody's just a useful idiot to somebody, that's kind of what all influencers are, just useful idiots to somebody.
Oh, so who are you an useful idiot for?
I don't know, but
crypto traders?
Probably. Yeah, maybe.
Jeffrey Epstein, since he invested in Bitcoin.
Maybe.
That's dumb.
But yeah, so we got there was kind of a viral clip that was going around, which is what we've been asked to talk about, and then also some commentary that was around it and our thoughts around it. But do you have comments?
Yeah,
that you want to?
We got to read some comments. I mean, we got to shout out some of these people who have been very, very kind to us, and some. Well, I don't really know how to describe them. Maybe you guys can describe them. But first, from Amy K on Spotify. I can't believe this isn't a top conservative podcast. These guys are so funny and are really good at breaking everything down and explaining the nuances. Hi from Ireland. P.S. Conor McGregor is genuinely a prick.
Ireland. Nice.
God,
one of our few Ireland hanger-oners when we went viral in Ireland. Huh?
There was a point, one of our best clips on TikTok is about Ireland.
Yeah.
Funny story, my brother, Sam, a valiant Discord member and contributor to our community. We were in Germany together for a family friend's wedding, and he looked very much like Conor McGregor in his three-piece suit. Yes, that Germany. And I got him to do a Conor McGregor impression, and it is spot on. That's awesome. If I can get it to Bennett, we're going to insert it right here.
Don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. Your wife sent me DMs.
It is.
Really awesome.
Speaking of that Auslander Ross clip, it is so funny that when we had Jeremy Carl on here, he was talking about that clip, and it was like I've never really heard anybody use that clip in any reference. It was
Other
like,
than us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then he's just like, we bump it at work all the time. I was like, what?
He's a knower.
He's a knower.
Yeah, crazy
I
stuff.
don't know why I enjoy that phrase so much.
He's a knower.
He's a
He
knower.
knows things.
Second comment from Spotify from Jay Shirala. I don't have poor taste. Everyone else has poor taste.
True. It's valid.
Congrats on 2K. Criminally underrated. Thank you, Jay Shirala. We agree, and we appreciate you for watching and commenting and sharing with all of your friends. And
The last
yes.
comment's the best one.
the last one here
From Runchel.
is something from
New members benefits.
from Runchel. we were talking about new member benefits. David did the very ambiguous tease of whatever is to come, which we are totally certain of and will be releasing soon once we figure out what that is. Runchel suggested that boudoir photo shoots with me. I think me taking the photos, to be clear,
Yeah.
should be a new member's benefit. Caught off guard by that. I'll be honest with you.
That's for our OnlyFans. You can see it on the link tree.
It's going to be a very, very exclusive
It's all
membership
about
tier.
round-the-clock sex. It's all. Come on, man.
That's what we got the new space next door for.
That's right.
Good photo shoot area.
We've got some new space. We've got props. We've got faux furs and day beds and mood lighting.
Look really good in black and white.
And David will narrate the whole photo shoot session.
Oh, we got to do this quick before the voice goes away then.
You got to put on some sexy music. Like, you go, girl. Feeling yourself.
Who is to assume that Runchel is a woman?
Who knows?
We don't know that for sure.
Who knows who that is?
Members benefits
Makes it
feet
equally
pics.
exciting and terrifying. Feet pics. Okay, that's probably enough. YouTube, we're going to get to your comments on the next episode. Please keep leaving your comments, you guys. It's been tremendously funny, and we do read all of them because as of yet, there's not that many of you. So we appreciate you for being the front runners, the leaders of the charge, keeping us entertained over here.
So in the Tucker cost, or like this freak out that everyone has
The Tucker cost.
since Tucker Carlson has hosted Nick Fuentes, there's been this consistent conservative narrative about cancellation and all this debate. Well, the corporate press got into it, and it is the most like fainting couch, like kind of commentary.
How dare you?
It is so like thin-skinned, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like Nick Fuentes says stuff that is very controversial and meant to be and hyperbolic and all that kind of stuff, or maybe he's serious about it all. Who knows? But just go through the article real quick here,
Just
Kyle.
just the title itself is "Inside the Twisted World of Nick Fuentes' Young Edgelord Fans Who Repeat His Hate Speech Like a Mantra."
That is so not International Men's
From
Day.
the New York Post. Yeah, on International Men's
God, I
Day,
know.
really?
Yeah. How could you on International Men's Day?
We get one day.
Come at me, bro.
One day.
Literally. Do we ask for so much?
That's not even celebrated.
I didn't even know it was happening.
Actually, before we go on, go to the author's bio. If you go to the bio and look at the book that she wrote.
Oh, yeah, this is ironic.
Is it?
This is deeply ironic.
No, it's-
She wrote with Greg Lukianov, right? The Canceling of the American Mind.
yeah. Repeat. Hate speech. Like I thought we all agreed like 2 seconds ago that hate speech was a progressive thing.
Not to mention, she completed a research fellowship with the, wait for it, Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
Yeah. It was a fantastic
Interesting.
organization. One of the best.
Yeah, great.
So I guess
Civil
she's
liberties
free to
organization.
express
It also
her...
says she covers freedom of speech right there. She covers
Yeah.
higher education, women's issues, freedom of speech.
Now, to be fair, in the
No
article,
men's issues in there, though.
Nope.
Nuh-uh.
Not on Men's Day.
I guess
On my holiday?
Dare you?
we don't fall under popular culture, apparently.
I, for one,
Yeah.
am not outraged. Okay.
So this is what's interesting about it is, you have this, she's not calling for his cancellation in the article. There's nothing about that now. So like, she's not being completely inconsistent, but it's just like the use of the words of the people who are, right? And that is a dangerous signal when your free speech champions are like, yeah, you could talk about anything. Like you could talk about, trans and all the kids, but you can't talk. Nick Fuentes stuff you can't talk about, right? Because that's hate speech.
You don't say that.
I will
And
say
it's about the cultural value of free speech.
I will say it's noteworthy is like she's attacking kind of both sides here. She's like even streamers like Hassan Piker, who would be kind of the radical leftist side of this streaming world, and then Nick Fuentes. So it is kind of attacking both of the radical sides.
Take that, horseshoes.
Yeah,
or whatever that is.
Hassan must find that shocking. I don't know if any of you guys know that reference. He got in a bunch of trouble for shocking his dog.
Hey.
Bunch of.
I'm finding this sentence here sort of interesting. The Groypers, as they are known, who venerate Fuentes, appear far more interested in posting the most offensive memes possible than engaging in actual political discourse. It's as if the boys' chat has just made its way onto the open internet.
On Men's Day. On Men's Day. How dare you? Can a
How
guy
dare you?
just get a little emotion?
Yeah,
You
a
know?
bunch of tweets here.
Can a guy just try to be as offensive as possible for no reason? Does there need to be
The
real
lulz.
political discourse?
Some quotes pulled from Fuentes on his podcast are, "You can call me a Nazi, you better be careful, because if I'm a Nazi, then there's millions of young people that are following a fucking Nazi, so you better be careful about those words."
Yeah. Is this hyperbolic or is it not? What do you guess? You know, if you watch Tucker Carlson's interview with him or any of the interviews with him, you'd quickly identify that as he's probably being like sarcastic and hyperbolic.
Sort of the shock jock vibe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Once again. And that's not a defense of him. It's just like, you got to contend with them. You can't just do this thing. You know what I mean? It just
Which is
doesn't
hilarious to
work.
hear you say contend, because whenever you say contend, I think Jordan Peterson, and he was like one of the first people to come out and say like, this is dangerous. While, having just made his career on, trying to reach and lift up these young disaffected men on Men's Day. Nevertheless.
On Men's Day, yes.
So, Jordan too. He was kind of one of the first people that had to. I was gonna say grope with it. Groiper, I'd groiper on the mind. He was the one that one of the first people that had to really contend with a lot of the
best words.
with a lot of the Nick Fuentes crowd, because he was, when Nick was on the rise as this like underground media personality. That's when Jordan had like all the people coming up to him with like the Pepe flags, which have become kind of the groiper symbol of the like. So he's kind of had an interesting world where he's had to deal with this. I don't know.
Well, it's particularly interesting because Jordan Peterson is a lot of the reason why so much of the right has moved the way it has, because he kind of activated the part of the mind that is most orientated towards religion. And religion, the same part of the mind that governs religion, the prefrontal medial cortex, also governs lots of other areas of belief, including your sense of territory, your sense of like what is your space and your group space. And it also enforces like religion and like nationalism, in the sense of like, who is my tribe? Who are the people around me? Are we together? Am I of good standing within that tribe? Same basic circuitry of the brain. Now it's neuroscience and I'm not an expert in it, but I think there's really interesting ways to look at that. He's kind of like the reason why this happens in many ways, but he's unwilling to contend with the same things that the young folks that attach themselves to Nick Fuentes contend with, as they see like so much corruption and problems within their government and their social structure.
So Jordan Peterson created the Groypers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, oh yeah.
They spin out of him in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Daily Wire and they're like, dude, do you look what you've done? Look what you've done.
Well, in a lot of ways, though, it's like you look at the Daily Wire and you're like, look what you've done.
Yeah,
because a lot of this stems from the Daily Wire crowd.
Yeah.
Interesting. How do you figure?
Well, if Nick tells a story where his relationship with Casey Dillon, and then also kind of what it looked like Ben Shapiro was almost grooming him in a sense to be a potential
right.
Media figure,
which he described on the Tucker interview. Right?
Yeah, also on PBD. He's said the story many times, but a lot of this comes from he is the monster that was created from the blowback of Daily Wire.
When Ben Shapiro basically said you have to adopt this opinion on Israel, or
well, it was the quote.
not gonna...
The thing that really blew him up was the quote tweeting from Ben Shapiro, which was him just asking a reasonable question of, what's the reason for funding, like, for all this aid to Israel?
Well,
You know?
yeah,
How
and the
dare
blow up
you.
one was where he was trapped with the hidden camera.
At the Liberty Institute thing.
Yeah. But they created it to the degree to which there was a contradiction within America First, where Daily Signal was trying to measure first that they were anti-Trump, but then once that was inevitable, oh, America First is so great, but what about Israel? And that contradiction they couldn't contend with, and instead they contended with it in this way that was silencing. And that contradiction has a blowback. It has a Newtonian counter pressure to it. And so did they create Nick Fuentes? Absolutely, by not contending with this issues in good faith.
Well, and even beyond just the Israel itself, when it comes to that side of it, it's also just the free speech issue was such a big issue at the time. But then there was always this underlying of, but anti-Semitism, like that always existed kind of lurking in there where, conservatives were really good at calling out kind of the identitarian politics and the censorship that was going around with that at the time when it came to like the LGBTQ and the Black Lives Matter stuff. But then it was when Israel, as soon as Israel came into it, was like, we'll be down to censor that. Like, we'll censor college professors for anti-Semitism, that type of stuff. During the era of college campus free speech was like the biggest issue.
Right. Or just after it, like Trump comes into office and all of a sudden everything changes. He's gone from, of good size to enormous because of that. And because of Gaza and because of these things, like people watching on their phones, kids getting blown up, and that's gonna radicalize people.
The contradictions tend to radicalize people when people identify that contradictions exist.
I think the article said his page quintupled.
Wow. Yeah, that's
That's crazy.
Yeah. So look, one more. If you go down, you can find some of the memes and how they're like, oh, can you believe this is a meme? So look at this terribly offensive meme.
Which way, Western man?
Like this is the Groypers contending with their own role in the world. I don't see this as hate speech. He's saying, look, you could be America first, you could be Israel first, which is
the caption
discussion
paints it in a very unfavorable, uncharitable light. It says Groyper X accounts pump out offensive anti-Semitic memes that regularly get hundreds of thousands of views.
Is that because he's doing the Jew hands? Is that what's going on there?
And the flag behind him.
I mean,
but that is it's hyperbolic. That is what the internet is.
Right.
This is not new to anything. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't anti-Semitism or that's not bad.
No.
I'm only saying that
there clearly is. That's happening.
And racial hatred's terrible. Nick Fuentes has condemned that. Can he ever condemn it enough for you to accept the difference between hyperbolic rhetoric and that? No. But we could definitely always tolerate Ben Shapiro saying how great it is how transfer is not a dirty word, and how Arabs like to live in the mud, and Jews like to build stuff. That stuff we can just go right over. That kind of hyperbolic, kind of points of view. But Nick Fuentes, that must always be condemned forever. And I'm not even trying to justify the guy. I'm just trying to say, just contend with your own contradictions, guys. Lastly, here, like the panic line here is quote, conservative writer Rod Dare corroborated on his Substack, quote, I am told by someone in a position to know that something like 30 to 40% of DC GOP staffers under the age of 30 are Groypers.
Sources tell me.
Yeah, that's like, how did you get those numbers, bro?
Someone in a position to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be super surprised by that though. Just with how pervasive he is among young people, because like so many young staffers are going to be under 30, and they're going to be people of this generation that probably got inspired by in this pipeline that we're talking about of like Jordan Peterson, the Andrew Tates of the world, like Nick Fuentes. They're all going to be in that kind of internet sphere in some fashion. Probably got a bunch of ideas and their thought processes in there. I wouldn't be surprised by this, to be honest.
Yeah.
If that was the case. And the Groypers would probably be celebrating it, and people that are anti-Groyper are going to be like, oh, it's terrible, but that's going to be how it is yes, staffers that are under 30 are going to be people that are very privy to the internet personalities. Yeah. That's what is going to happen.
Well, I mean, just like a judgment of that circumstance aside, that's a really interesting demographic data point if it's true. I mean, it signals a pretty substantial sea change in, a lot of the work that's getting done in Washington. I mean, you would think that would start to have an impact on policy at a certain point, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, eventually those people are congressmen.
Yeah. I mean, if you're under the age of 30, that could be anywhere from like a legislative correspondent where you are just like writing the return emails to people's emails and letters. Or that could be a legislative aide. You could be analyzing policy for a congressman and, having that point. Now, your job in those roles is to reflect the policies of the congressman you're working for. But staff does make policy in the long run. You get up to that legislative director or legislative deputy chief of staff, you could really make a difference in the way that things are actually presented and understood.
Remind me the story. Just speaking, we mentioned briefly Marjorie Taylor Greene on the last episode, but wasn't there a feud with Fuentes and Greene at one point because she like fired a staffer because he was a self-proclaimed groyper or something like that? Didn't that happen?
It like came out that he was.
Yeah, and then she like
she also spoke at an event and then like you know said whatever. He said like disowned him of sorts. She didn't know what the event was and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think they've kissed and made up since then.
No, but like that is one of those things where staffer was groyper type of thing, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. And it's definitely I'm not doubting that it is. I just doubt like 30 to 40. Like no, you don't. You're just guessing.
No,
you know,
that is a guesstimate. It's one of those things where I could see that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's unreasonable, but it's one of those things. How are you getting that done? That's right.
100%.
Well, he knows the guy.
Yeah, somebody in a position to know. Like they conducted a poll. It was Rasmussen poll among.
So to step back for a minute, this article is a good example of what not to do if you actually want to make sure that the future isn't groyper. If you do fainting couch articles of like, oh, look how hateful it is, when it's, it's the internet. This is the boys group chat that you're in right now. And this is how things are. They're edgy and they're hyperbolic and they're what they are.
You're going to get memed into oblivion.
Yeah. So you're rewarded in those social structures for how real you are, right? Therefore, he says the N-word, that being said, that the point being that like if you're going to not let that be the future, you can't do this. You have to actually contend with his arguments. So we're going to contend with one of his arguments. Place where I disagree with him on.
Yeah, the clip here was going kind of viral this morning. But I guess we'll play through the clip and then we can kind of talk about it. The premise of the clip is talking about future coalition of like left and right coming together, and he has kind of ideas around that.
In the context of Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie being what pulled together a super popular point that no one could vote against, and he's kind of taken that as a political lesson and then unpacking it for the groyper community.
This is what the groypers should become, kind of an idea.
So this is the blueprint. This is how we take over. And by the way, hey, and get a load of this. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie working together against the interests to compel the files. What do you think that has? A 90% approval rating? If you had progressive Democrats and nationalist Republicans working together, let's say to compel the release of the Epstein files, what kind of approval rating do you think that has? 90%? And what if they got together and they opposed foreign aid to Israel? What approval rating do you think that would have? 90%? What if they got together and worked on the basis of a common interest? Do you think that that Republicans or independents running under that brand, do you think that would become more popular or less popular over time? 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. It snowballs. And we need to propel someone into the White House that is just a populist. And here's where we're going to have to give. This is going to be the compromise. Very simple. The left has to give up immigration. That's simple. The left is going to have to give up. Look, we can have equity and we can have equality in the country. We can have civil rights. We can have all those things. But we have to close the damn borders. We have to close it. Too many illegal immigrants. Too many legal immigrants. That has to be the compromise. The left has to give on immigration and the right has to give on the free market. If the right can come down on health care and on a social safety net and maybe on some subsidies for education, and if the left can come down on the anti-white open border stuff and they can agree that we have a country, that party will win 90% of the vote and rule for a century. That's the compromise. That's the populist compromise. Why is it that for the left, it's like they don't even care about anything else. It just has to be open borders. And on the right, it's like they don't care about anything else as long as it's foreign aid to Israel and war in the Middle East and war with Russia. That's the kind of program that we need. And that's what they're terrified of. They're terrified that the left and the right are going to come together on the basis of stop supporting Israel, on the basis of close the borders, on the basis of restricting money in politics and the influence of the oligarchs. That's what they're terrified of.
Okay, David, give us your case.
Oh, well, one, I think strategically, just looking at his own, working within his own, unit of measurement, he's not actually asking the left to give up very much, but he's asking the right to give up what makes it the right. The right is the traditions of what we're trying to conserve on the conservative right, is the traditions of the English and the Dutch that created America. Those traditions. Those
being the free market.
And the free market being one of them. I mean, strong property rights. Now, and then he's not asking the left to give up a whole lot because, keep in mind, Obama deported more people than Trump has. Bernie Sanders, one of the most popular Democrats, leftists in the country, has been pro-border enforcement for a very long time. Does he criticize Democrats about that? No, that's because he's weak. He's Bernie Sanders. Money in politics. Once again, not contending at all with why is the problem money in politics what it is. Money in politics is the problem that it is because the government is powerful, right? And people are flawed and all kinds of things that are natural and what our understanding of what humans are, especially as a conservative, as someone who cares about Western heritage. So are you going to change human nature? No. Are you going to decrease the power of the government by allying with leftists to more control the economy by giving up free markets? No. You're going to create more money in politics. You're just going to create the kind that, in an agenda that will get you more power. So is it a political platform that could get you lots of power? Yeah, possibly. I think he's got a good case for that. Will it be better for Americans? Only if you only care about immigration and that's it.
So what do you think would be a better compromise?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, you could say the Groypers should ally with the Libertarian Republicans. I mean, that's the irony, is that the people who made the thing that he's celebrating in this video was a Libertarian Republican who didn't do this because he's a nationalist, who did it because he's actually a principled Libertarian. So what's the lesson there? Work with the left,
right?
Not on and don't get me wrong. The degree to which I am a fellow traveler with Fuentes on like skepticism of the elite who control these institutions like that, especially when it comes to intelligence and foreign policy and things like that. No, the alignment there, I'm totally with him if that's what he wants to disrupt. The question is how and what are the consequences of that action? What are the trade-offs? And I think the trade-offs are a lot more than we're saying.
Right.
It is kind of funny using Massey as an example in all this because he's kind of known for not being a coalition guy in any meaningful sense at all. Like he doesn't show up to the meetings. He doesn't do that's kind of his shtick is that he's not a coalition guy.
Well, within his own party.
But I mean, he works with people here and there, but he's not going to be somebody that makes compromises. It doesn't matter what the coalition is. It's kind of what he's known for.
Well, but I mean, I think what we're seeing is the efficacy of coalition building around policy positions, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey agree that the Epstein files should be released and they work on that. And I think he's right that if that same coalition came together to support, a more America First foreign policy and pulling back foreign aid and all these things, that would be tremendously successful. I think where I agree with you, David, that we don't necessarily need to ally on everything. We don't need to create a super party based around this sort of interesting amalgamation and compromise on core beliefs of conservatism or libertarianism. Nor do progressives. We just need to work together on the issues that we agree on and really press hard on those. And if we get 8 or 10 of those things across the finish line, we're going to have a drastically different and better country for everybody.
I'm getting the sense, though, that libertarians aren't part of this coalition. Like he's using Thomas Massey as an example here, but he's saying that you have to give up free markets. Libertarians are too autistic to give up free markets.
Well, absolutely. And I don't agree with that.
Too principled or, it's too
I'm
key
joking.
to their...
I'm joking.
But the silly part of having libertarians as part of a coalition is that just like you said,
it's impossible.
They can't coalition.
They can't coalition with people. That's kind of the whole thing.
I mean, you kind of got libertarians, the maybe less
for
autistic ones, to coalition around MAGA.
For 5 minutes they were there.
Yeah. But the problem there was that there was no principled underpinning to the MAGA movement, clearly as is exemplified by Trump's behavior in the last 2 months, 3 months. You know, like we've seen him go back on all the promises that he made to libertarians that got them on board.
And that's specifically why Fuentes left the MAGA movement, was Trump's inconsistency on that, for the same reason the libertarians are leaving it. Does that make sense? So like this is a sense in which Fuentes is actually closer to that faction, but he's doesn't like that faction because he himself is an interventionist in the economy. He believes in that.
Well, it's not principled enough for me over here, so we have to violate our principles over here, is essentially the argument that he's making. Like, we have to give up certain things over here to get over. Like, he's just swapping coalitions.
Because his ordinal ranking of his values, right? So immigration is the only issue that matters. Therefore, whatever gets us power so that we can get to that place, everything else is sacrificial at that point.
And I could see a world where there is a large swath of right-wingers that are comfortable with abandoning free market principles when it comes to social safety nets and healthcare. I could see that.
We've been contending with that for a very long time. The social conservatives, I'm forgetting his name right now, but he was from the Midwest. He ran for president. Santorum was always that guy. Yeah, I know.
He'll never escape it. Yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Anyways, he was that guy and has been that guy for a long time. It didn't take off anywhere. Might have been Santorum himself as a candidate, but it was also that many Republicans were like, wait, I don't like the fact that we're going bankrupt. More entitlement spending will only bankrupt us further. Now, Santorum combined that with an interventionist foreign policy and all the standard Republican stuff. He was just more willing to use the government to like help people in that sense. But he's not willing, like that's not going to stop the thing that actually affects Nick Fuentes' audience the most, which is inflation. The problem is the money. That's the problem, right? And the broader economy that has been, as much as he says that we don't, I know this is hard for some people to hear, but we don't really know why manufacturing left the United States. It isn't like we wrote a bill that said manufacturing will leave the United States and we will instead do this other thing, right? There's a couple different things happen simultaneously. Increased amount of global trade happens at the exact same times that we pass the EPA. So what really closed down American manufacturing? Well, I'll tell you about my story about that. I grew up in a small town in Montana, Townsend, Montana, a very small town. And in that place, there's a couple different places that you could work. You could work at the smelting factory, or you could work at the lumber mill. The lumber mill got its lumber from the forest nearby. Well, guess what? Since the creation of the EPA and since the malinvestment of the United States government in our Forest Service management, less and less lumber could be taken out of our forests here in Montana. And so we wind up in a situation where there's less and less jobs in forestry and less work. And we got to actually import lumber from Canada because they deregulated their stuff. They use more market-based principles in their public land management in the 1990s, and we never did. So throughout the 1990s, those jobs are going away. My dad was lucky enough to get a job at Asarco. Asarco was a smelting plant in East Helena, which is about 30 minutes drive away. That was my family's opportunity to get access to the American dream. We got access from living in a trailer in a small place to living in a triplex and eventually being able to live in like a middle class home. With that, there was this moment of prosperity. East Town was booming. And then all of a sudden, the EPA sued Asarco for $10 billion. They went out of business, were purchased by a Mexican company. So what that means is they went bankrupt and their assets were bought by a Mexican company. Do I blame the Mexicans for that? Or do I blame the EPA for bankrupting them?
That is a clear answer to that.
You could look at that story. You could tell the story of how bad it is that the Mexicans bought the capital from that, but you could also tell that story otherwise.
Well, anybody could have bought it. Yeah. It's kind of by happenstance that it happened to be a Mexican company, right?
Exactly. That threw the entire community into shambles overnight. People moved away. The property values collapsed. People's assets and investments disappeared overnight. And people made it through. They're hard people, rural place. So they kept going. But I know exactly what the post-industrial story looks like. And to simply blame it on the outsider, on the foreigner, while in some cases that might be true. it's oftentimes a multivariable story that has a lot to do with our federal government. And the fact that we can't mine anything in the United States today, now without decades of approvals and checks and all this like red tape that makes a lot of things not penciled that otherwise might. Or we can't we can't cut things out of our forests without environmental lawsuits.
Well, I mean, the same thing is true with permitting for building housing. I mean,
yes.
It's the same effect has been increasing property costs, building costs, and then the price of housing in America.
And is that the free market that he's going to end up giving up? Now, I know what he's probably really talking about is like instituting like in socialized medicine or something like that.
Well, and that's what I got from it is he said something like free market principles around things like healthcare and social safety nets like that. That's what
subsidies in education.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so what that leaves you at is what we're just going to return to the progressive era, where it was basically a pragmatic approach to say, in order to gain power, we're going to socialize some things and we're going to use market principles for other things. And we're going to do this on just like a case by case basis based upon what we think we could sell the American people on so we can maintain power. And what he's asking for is a return to that. And I'm saying that is the problem. The reason why we have the EPA, the reason why we have this draconian management system that is so mismanaged America's economy that we've hollowed out many places in America is primarily because of the system that you are going to now move your Groyper movement very clearly into that direction. And that's where my objection is.
Is that a Fed move?
Feels like a Fed move.
I'm kidding, Groypers.
Yeah. And to be clear, I'm teasing about the national socialism of the thing, to the degree that he's talking about being a socialist and he's a nationalist. I think he's a Francoist, right? Like he's a Catholic supremacist. He wants control and authoritarianism over the societies to get the best benefit out of it culturally. But I don't think that matches what American society is because, one, where I'm from, not Catholic. Butte is, but that's about it, guys. So like, how do you manage that in a multi-ethnic country like America?
That's the hard part with a lot of
this identitarianism.
A lot of these ideas is it's kind of like, how do we get to the society that you're asking for? What does that actually look like? Like it's nice to be a commentator and just say things into the ether and just be like, yeah, it sounds really nice on paper, but like, what are the actual steps we use to get to this supposed, land that you're trying to move us to? And it's just that's always the problem with these things.
Well, Franco's Spain paid a great cost for their allegiance to their culture. Right, in terms of development, in terms of like lives, medical systems, things like that. And what are the costs to Nick Fuentes' vision? So I'd advocate if you're going to do socialized medicine, it would probably look, something like the National Health Services of Great Britain.
Well,
and that National Health Service would have tremendous costs, right? I mean, so for example, and like people don't realize this because the National Health Service polls really well, but its results are terrible, right? Meaning, mid-2025, the average 7.6 million people are on a waiting list for basic care that you would get within weeks to days in America. I know sometimes it's hard to find a general practitioner, but in Britain, because it's nationalized, they have a deficit of 110,000 vacancies in their hospitals and clinic system. Not all doctors, 40,000, at least 40,000 are just nursing posts, right? For your basic medical care. They're constantly reorganizing the NHS because there's no way to make socialism work, guys. You run out of other people's money. So they're constantly throwing billions of dollars at it. We're broke. We have $1 trillion annual deficit. What are you going to, okay. So if that's combined with like rolling back the empire, that's great. But the leftists don't want to do that. Not even a little bit. Right. So what are you talking about? Like that, you're not even making that the centerpiece of your thing. It's like the border, not even the empire, the border. Right.
Yeah. Well, whatever happened? I mean, with the Catholic values being in place, whatever happened to private social safety net? Like, why isn't that a part of the conversation?
Well, many Catholics have been both sides of that issue. I don't know. I don't know about Catholic theology.
Well, I mean, just generally like church-based social safety nets. I mean, that was
it is a very New Testament concept.
Well, but that's just a lot of the way that this country operated prior to the progressive era. Is that not right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and like if you were to say, hey, if you were to get the Groypers on board with privatizing social services, I mean, that's a thing that a lot of people could get on board with if you just could articulate the vision clearly enough and box out that space.
But then there would be, I can just already imagine the backlash that's going to breed oligarchs and this thing, and we're all, this side of the right and also that side of the left, they're very anti-oligarch.
But that's the thing, is like they are more than willing to get rid of the free market, right? Because, and this is what these comments are about, like the free market is an illusion, right? And this is a random guy from the.
We were asked to comment on these types of things, though.
But I think it's like it's people doing apologetics for this point of view.
Let's just read this comment here. I'd take that compromise, talking about Fuentes' compromises between the coalition. This, quote, free market is an illusion anyways. It's just a handful of mega corporations passing money back and forth while lobbying for foreign interests and slave labor while screwing American citizens.
Yeah, so like you're more than willing to give up the free market because that's the baseline, but the result is oligarchy. Well, that's also the baseline, right? So like, what's the baseline? You know what I mean? Like, what is our system? And I would contend that their actual vision of the free market is not true, right? The small businesses make up approximately 45 to 48% of the total GDP of America, right? Big business makes up a lot of it, and that's not a good thing, especially the degree to which they are the result of cronyism, which is what most people are most upset about when they think of free markets. But free market is very specifically the philosophy that says a minimum amount of government interference is what we're shooting for. Cronyism is the thing where you have a maximum amount that's captured by corporate interests, which couldn't be further from the free market. So it's strange because we use the ideal vision of, socialized medicine to justify our vision in that direction. But then we take the reality of free markets and all its messiness, and we say that's what our that's an unideal situation. We always compare the fantasy land of socialism with the reality of free markets, when both have trade-offs and problems and consequences that are a result of human nature, the thing that we can't change.
Well, to maybe steelman that side of the argument, like I think what they're saying with the free market is like there's a reason why free market is in quotes there. It's because we're kind of told that America's operating under a free market system, but in reality, it is not really that because of the corporate stuff. So they're saying like we can give away this like illusion that we're fighting for a free market when that's not even what we're here doing at this point, right?
You're fighting for the 45 to 48% of the market that is free, that mostly represents relatively small business owners being entrepreneurs and making stuff. But that doesn't mean you're justifying the entire market, right?
Well, it's very easy for people to look at, like they're going to look at the big companies because they're all that anybody talks about. Nobody's talking about mom and pop shop over there, right? So they're going to be just looking at the publicly traded Fortune 500 companies all the time in their analysis because that's what they see.
Yeah, talk to a small business owner about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and how that affected them. Most will tell you, it was overwhelmingly positive. They might have concerns about the deficit or other sorts of things that, even if they're Democrats, but they would say it saved me money, and I didn't spend that money on importing slave labor from out of the United States. Fuentes uses the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act as the only thing Republicans are able to do, as the reason why they're actually controlled by corporate interests. But that itself, and I was intimately involved in this, was meant to be, no, we're trying to get to 100% of businesses, not just the big corporations. And there are specific provisions targeting that. Not all businesses use the same tax status, therefore you can't do that with the same thing because that's how the structure works, right? So therefore, did one benefit more than the other? Yeah, one makes more than the other. It makes the bulk of the market. But that doesn't mean that the small business didn't also benefit. If those tax cuts had expired, it would have been devastating to small business. That doesn't mean that therefore we shouldn't do anything about the large corporate capture of our government. That means we have to reduce the power of government, not give up free markets.
This is another comment that we were asked to comment on. This is a response to Angela McArdle had quote tweeted the Fuentes thing. She's a former Libertarian chairman of the Libertarian Party. She said, no groyper socialism. This is a trap, guys. And then the response is it's a definition of terms issue. The current, quote, free market model is really just corporatism or crony capitalism. It is not true laissez-faire free market capitalism, which in its purest form I strongly support. All the groypers know is this perverted version of the free market, and thus they reject it. So it's a big lift to simultaneously explain A, the current model isn't true free market, and B, real free market is better. Personally, I think the benefits of a left-right populist alliance to create free societal change outweigh the risks of being pointed on some issues in the somewhat wrong or in a skew direction. But that's more of a game theory, strategical, tactical triaging. of risks, rank, order, value, prioritization.
Yeah, so that's kind of suggesting what I say is like this is trying to subordinate other values that maybe even they share. Maybe even Nick Fuentes agrees with me on the money supply, and it really is the Fed is like the core problem.
He's said that in the past.
I've heard that. I don't know if he's evolved on that, but what's not going to help that is bankrupting the United States with more expenditure. That's a reality, right? I mean, a socialized med in the United States would be incredibly expensive.
And not good quality.
Yeah. It's definitely a way to buy votes. Like it is a way to do that. I just from a practical standpoint, I have a very difficult time imagining these groups that he's laying out coming together for some sort of super party.
But what I think he's actually saying is not actually coalition. What I think he's saying is that the Groyper position should be socialized medicine plus border.
Yeah, well, I thought he used the word super party.
No, I know what you mean, but that's like I think he's like drawing an analogy out. He's trying to say like this, what all these votes could have been our votes if we actually had a true populist party. And a true populist party would look like these kind of compromises for people across it, kind of like Maha and MAGA got crammed together.
The America Party, Elon, where'd that go?
Yeah, right.
Like you had a billionaire willing to do this, and all of a sudden, now I'm done.
So, like, I think a true populist party that actually prioritized our traditions would be something that could sell quite well. Now, would you get attacked? Yes, but getting attacked is not the problem right now. The problem right now is money and your ability to get access to the voice that allows you to amplify that picture. And it's sad to see somebody like Fuentes, who is gaining such a huge voice, use that to compromise with the left before he's even gotten to the playing field. Right, we're saying like we're going to be for socialized medicine now, no matter the cost of that, and the cost would be enormous. So Europe can have these things because we do their defense, right? But as soon as we do these things, we're going to go bankrupt because we're already going bankrupt.
Fair point. Yeah, it's unfair to look at Europe as a shining example of these things when the economic reality of Europe relies so heavily on subsidy from the United States.
Like and they're continuously declining.
Yeah, it's like trying to, carry our own citizens on our back while we're wearing a ball and chain of Europe around our neck. You're going to drown. We're going to drown.
The European Central Bank just announced that they're running out of Eurodollars. like they're falling apart right now, guys. Like at the seams in this economic war that's going on right now. So like I'm not sure that they're a useful model in any meaningful sense.
Right. And Fuentes never tries to make that case, but it's the case where we have the most similar problems that a institutional healthcare, socialized healthcare like that would create similar outcomes, I think. And I'd like to hear his case why he doesn't think that.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear from the Groypers in our Discord and that might be coming upon this video. I mean, what do you guys think? Are you willing to make this compromise? Do you have any objections to Nick's view here? I mean, or are you willing to trade all of those things for a strong border?
There is, and I'm not saying Nick's a Fed from what I'm about to say, but like you can kind of see why people might think that in this notion where it's like capture all these people on the right and then get them to merge with the left and do kind of this like socialist thing, which from our perspective is like it's just going to breed the oligarchs that you're kind of supposedly fighting against. Yes. That's what it seems to be like the game theory would work out to in my mind. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think history would say you're wrong.
Well, yeah. Most people don't read history though.
That doesn't really matter. You're still right.
But it's one of those. Thank you. I like being right.
Yeah, I got you.
You guys are all right on this episode today.
It's Men's Day, Kyle. I'm looking out for you.
It's Men's Day. We're
boys
all
club. Boys.
But
boys,
like
boys.
that's one of the things that I would have here, where I'm just like, I'm having trouble grappling with this vision. Like I could see. There's kind of these like luxury belief symbolic issues that I think these two sides can come together on from time to time. And like the Epstein files is kind of one of those. It's kind of like this luxury belief symbolic issue. It's not really a piece of the broader picture that is like what people want in the sense of these ideas of like, let's have good healthcare. Like, I don't think these two groups that you're talking about here are going to come together on solutions on healthcare. Like they have very different worldviews on there. Like I don't see how those could merge together. Like you're asking a lot from the right to, I think, just be like, oh, we're just going to adopt
Socialism.
social healthcare apparatus after we've been kind of going against that for so long. Like I have a hard time imagining. I think maybe some newcomer, like I guess that is his young audience, maybe it's a different story.
Right. Which is the part of this that is most like concerning, is because you got to really carefully look at the trade-offs to the thing that you're actually proposing. Because if you have more Americans dying of cancer, but you got a strong border, you'd be like, that's worth it. Maybe, but we could discuss that. But you're making that likelihood more likely, because that's what's happening in Europe, honestly, is because they have less specialized treatment and technology because they'd invest less in their healthcare system.
It would be interesting to hear Fuentes break this down further beyond a 4-minute clip of like what this actually looks like in practice, because that's the thing that I'm seeing. Like I'm having trouble seeing how this coalition forms together. Like what is the actual policy positions that you are kind of stating? Because it's very easy as a commentator to just be like, this is what should be done. But it's like, what are you actually suggesting that the right's position should be on these issues, rather than just kind of it's very vague to just say abandon some of the free market principles on these issues. And then it's also the same way on the left side of being like, just abandon your open border policy. Like that's kind of a religious issue for a lot of these folks. Maybe not for the ones that he's trying to court, but like I don't know like Ro Khanna's position on this, but yeah.
I imagine what they see this, and I could see this. They want to be on the side that can win, and because much of the frustration on the right is like we can never win. But the irony is that what they're doing is they're creating a progressive Republican brand to win, and that is the brand that brought us all the worst problems. Is the brand that created the EPA and price controls and all these things under the Nixon administration. It is the brand that stopped us from repealing Obamacare, because John McCain was a progressive Republican who believed in the social safety net and all the big government spending. You are creating the thing that has actually undermined us from actually embracing our tradition and values and actually having to live in a government that we were promised as our birthright as Americans.
Is the great
That's the problem.
Is the great position is we just want anti-Semitic John McCain?
Oh my God.
Is that what we're saying?
Let us know in the comments. Or maybe don't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's my case, and I want Groyper's watching this. I want you to know, like, I mean this in good faith. Like, I mean, I'm not doing the faint and counseling. He says naughty words. I'm trying to say, I want to contend directly with your ideas and what you think, and then let's talk about it.
Yeah,
because that's the thing where if we treat each other like Americans, we actually have the opportunity to build these sorts of opportunities to change things. It is because we discussed Epstein so much that we have the opportunity to pass the files. Let's discuss it.
Yeah.
But if you had a pro in the empire, pro in the intelligence deep state, pro free speech, pro market, what would it be, pro border security party, could that do well? Well, that's just a function of good politics. It's not an inevitable result. The black pill of like, well, big money determines everything is true and untrue simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very much worth the discussion, and I hope that the folks watching this will engage in that discussion with us. Comments, the Discord link is below. We're welcoming new people every day. It's really cool to see people jumping in there to contend with some of this stuff with us. We're all in the Discord, some more than others. Maybe we can get Kyle back in there a little bit more frequently. But
let us know in the comments if you do want anti-Semitic John McCain.
And maybe come up with some spicy memes around the anti-Semitic John McCain vibe. I want to see those in the Discord and the memes channel. Good place to wrap up, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, for David Rand, for Kyle Mack, for Bennett, I'm Joe Sheehan. Thanks for watching Human Reaction, guys. We will see you in the next one.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Human Reaction. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and give us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you want to become a member and support the show financially, check out humanreactionpod.com. And remember,
don't do nothing. Don't do nothing. Your wife sent me DMs.